It was one of those nights where the silence felt heavier than usual. Mark said he'd be working late again. I didn't ask questions this time. I already knew the answers would feel like lies. The wine was already open. One glass, not two. Cooper lay beside me, head on his paws, occasionally glancing up as if he could feel the weight pressing down on me. I used to wait for Mark with a kind of hopeful anxiety, back when coming home meant something. Now, I don't even flinch when the garage stays empty after 10. The sound of the rain tapping against the window had more presence in my life than he did lately. I wasn't always like this. We weren't. There was a time when a late night at work was an exception, not the pattern. A time when he touched my back in passing, kissed my forehead without thinking, brought home stories instead of silence. We laughed more. Even the dog noticed the shift. Cooper used to run to the door when Mark came in. Now he barely lifts his head. I picked at my food until it was cold. I scrolled through old photos, our wedding, the beach trip, him laughing with his eyes closed. I stopped doing that months ago. Tonight I did it again, and it felt like staring at strangers. People who used to believe in each other. Lately, he keeps his phone face down. Password changed. Notifications off. When I ask how work is going, I get recycled answers. Vague, lazy, and just believable enough to end the conversation. I used to push back, demand more. Now I don't bother. It's easier to let it go than to start a fight I know he's already prepared for. The thing is, I don't even know what I'm hoping for anymore. That he's not cheating. Or that if he is, at least he'll admit it, and I can finally stop feeling like I'm going crazy. But he doesn't give me either. Just this gray space between honesty and denial. Between love and obligation. Cooper shifted closer. His warmth pressed against my leg, a quiet reassurance. He's been with me through all of it, he knows. Dogs always know. Sometimes I talk to him like he's the only one who hears me. Maybe he is. Maybe that's why I said it out loud tonight. I don't think he loves me anymore. Cooper didn't move, just blinked slowly like he agreed. It wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No tears. Just a statement. Flat and clean, like I was reading a headline I'd known was coming. Then I saw it. Mark's iPad on the kitchen counter. Buzzing once. A message preview lighting up the screen for a moment too long. I didn't catch the full name. Just an initial. E. And a heart emoji. I stared at the screen until it dimmed again. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. My fingers twitched slightly, like they wanted to reach for it. But I didn't. Not yet. I sat back down, wine glass still half full. Cooper sighed. I whispered, "Do I want to know?" The rain answered for me, steady, relentless. No change. No pause. It was just me and my dog. And a truth that had already begun unraveling itself, thread by quiet thread. I stared at the iPad for a long time. It was stupid, really. A part of me still hoped it was innocent. Some group chat, some misread emoji. But I wasn't naive anymore. I had ignored too many signs already. My hands moved before I could stop them. It wasn't curiosity. It was survival. The passcode hadn't changed. I opened it. Messages were already pulled up. Erin. That was her name. Not just E. Her name at the top with a heart beside it. No hiding. No shame. The first message was from earlier today. Last night was perfect. I still smell you on me. I didn't need to scroll further, but I did. Out of something sick inside me that needed to see all of it, every word, every photo, like proof would somehow dull the knife. It didn't. There were pictures. A hotel room mirror selfie. Him shirtless, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. Messages from days I thought he was in meetings, out of town for conferences. Now I knew where he really was. She called him things I hadn't said in a year. He called her my peace. I closed my eyes. Not because I couldn't look, but because I didn't want to forget how numb I felt in that moment. I wasn't angry. Not yet. That would come later. What I felt was something quieter. Like being emptied out. Cooper nudged my leg. I hadn't realized I was shaking. My hands, my chest, everything trembled. I put the iPad down. I wanted to scream, to smash it, to throw it across the room. But I didn't move. I just sat there. I thought of all the times I defended him. To friends who noticed the distance. To myself when I saw how often he turned away from me in bed. I convinced myself it was stress. That he was tired. That I was overthinking. But the truth had been right in front of me. I just hadn't wanted to believe it. He had made her part of his routine. Not a one-time mistake. A second life. While I was here, cooking dinners that went cold, folding his laundry, waiting for replies that never came. I had been faithful to a man who had already left me months ago. I picked up the iPad again. Scrolled up further. Weeks of messages. Voice notes. Plans. Even laughter typed in caps. He gave her more of himself than I'd seen in a year. She wasn't a secret. I was the secret. I set the device down again, this time gently. My heart was loud in my chest. My throat burned, but I didn't cry. I couldn't. There was a calm that settled over me, cold and absolute. Like the storm had already passed, and all that was left was damage. Cooper rested his head on my lap. I looked down at him and whispered, "He's been cheating on me." Saying it out loud made it real. Solid. I felt it land inside me like a stone. I looked around the room. Everything looked the same, but nothing was. The walls still stood, but the foundation had cracked. I wasn't the same woman I'd been 30 minutes ago. She was gone. What was left was someone who knew. Finally, completely, undeniably knew. And once you know, you can't unknow. He walked in like nothing had changed. Keys on the counter, jacket over the chair, same tired smile he always wore when he thought that would be enough. He kissed my cheek. I didn't move. I said nothing. He started talking about how long the meeting ran, how the client was difficult, how traffic was hell. I just listened. I nodded once. He didn't notice how stiff I was. He never really looked at me anymore. I wanted to ask him who Aaron was. I wanted to throw his iPad at his feet and watch his face change. I imagined the stuttering, the half-lies, the silence when he ran out of them. I imagined myself screaming. But none of it happened. Instead, I asked if he wanted dinner. He said he already ate. Of course he did. He sat on the couch and picked up his phone. I sat across the room. He never once looked up. I watched him type, pause, smirk. I knew exactly who he was texting. The way his thumb hovered before hitting send, it was the same move he used when texting me sweet things years ago. Muscle memory, but no meaning anymore. He asked how my day was. I said fine. Nothing more. He didn't notice the crack in my voice, or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. Either way, he didn't care enough to ask again. Part of me was still waiting for him to come clean on his own. Just say it. Admit it. Give me something I could respect, even if it hurt. But he didn't. Cowards never do. Later, when we were in bed, he turned away from me like always. He kept his phone under his pillow. I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, breathing in the quiet lie between us. He typed one more message. The screen glowed just enough for me to read, "Good night, beautiful. Can't stop thinking about last night." Then the phone disappeared under the pillow again. He exhaled like a man at peace. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I had passed anger. I had reached something colder. Something final. I didn't need to confront him to know the truth. I had already seen everything I needed. Words, photos, silence, proof came in many forms. I realized I had nothing left to fight for. He wasn't mine. He hadn't been for a long time. I was just someone who made his life easier. A background character in his story. A comfortable silence. A role he no longer respected, but didn't want to give up. I thought about how long I had held on. How much of myself I gave to someone who only took. Loyalty became my burden. And he used it like a shield, knowing I wouldn't go looking for what I didn't want to find. But I found it anyway. And once I did, there was no confrontation that could fix it. No yelling, no crying, No desperate plea would change the fact that I wasn't enough for him, and that he didn't care. I didn't say a word. I just turned to face the other way, my back to him like his betrayal had been to me. My hands rested on Cooper's fur. That was real. That hadn't changed. He fell asleep quickly. It was easy for him. It always is, for the ones who lie. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. He was still asleep. I watched him for a moment, not because I cared anymore, but because I needed to see the face of the man who broke me so quietly. He looked peaceful. That told me everything. I got up without making a sound. Cooper followed me, tail low, eyes alert. I didn't pack much. Just the essentials. My toothbrush, a few clothes, my journal. I left the jewelry he gave me. It meant nothing now. I made coffee like I always did. Routine out of habit, not affection. I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the mug in my hands. There was no sadness. Just clarity. Like something finally clicked into place. I wasn't going to ask why. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to compete with someone who already won because I was never even in the race. He made that choice long before Erin had a name. I wrote a note. Just one line. I hope she was worth what you lost. No signature. I didn't owe him one. I looked around the house one last time. Everything I used to care about now felt like a set. A stage we had performed on for years. I wondered if he'd even notice when I was gone. Or if he'd just slide her into my place and pretend nothing happened. I didn't care anymore. That was the power he lost. Cooper jumped into the car without hesitation. He didn't look back either. It struck me then how loyalty doesn't ask for anything in return. He just stayed. Quiet. Constant. Present. The opposite of what I had spent the last year holding on to. I didn't know exactly where I was going. A cabin, maybe. A friend's spare room. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I was moving. Forward. Away. Finally. There's something strange about the moment you stop loving someone. It doesn't always happen during a fight or a big reveal. Sometimes it happens in silence, in stillness, when you realize the person next to you is already gone, and you're the only one who noticed. I had spent so long waiting for a version of him that no longer existed. I let myself shrink, stay quiet, stay faithful to a memory. But that version was gone. And so was I. I didn't cry. Not once. I thought I would, but there was nothing left to mourn. He hadn't just betrayed me, he erased me slowly, until I was a shadow of myself. Leaving wasn't a breakdown. It was a return. Just me and my dog, driving through a town that still slept. Headlights cutting through the early mist. Music low, my hand resting on Cooper's back. He leaned into me the way he always does when he knows I need it. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't come from anyone else. The kind you earn after walking through something that almost broke you. This wasn't an ending. It was the start of a version of me that didn't wait around to be chosen. I chose myself. And in that quiet, in that early morning light, I realized I wasn't alone. I never was. I just forgot that love doesn't beg, and it doesn't betray. It shows up, and it stays.